Back to the Eastern Front. You're here on Fighting Back. We're just talking during the break. You know, I left it to close the last segment. You know, we were talking about the power of the people versus the power of the government. And, you know, it's funny because I'm sure a lot of people who hear me talk, you know, every now and then I get somebody who says, oh, wait, they wave the inconsistency flag at me. And they say, I found something because I pride myself on consistency and principles. And they say, I found something you've been inconsistent about. And what's that? Well, you're talking about collective power. And you espouse yourself to be an individualist. And you know what? I am an individualist. I believe in individual freedoms and individual rights. But to deny that a collective group of people holds a certain amount of power, well, that's just ignorant. Of course, collectively, people can hold power. The government is not comprised of one individual. So therefore, the government collectively has a military. It has power. It has all the stuff it has, courtesy of us. But just the same, collectively, we as the people of the United States, the citizenry, the population, we the people, we have a hell of a lot more power than they do. And think about this, they've got nukes. And I still think we have more power than they do.
Yeah, what do you think they're going to do, nuke their own country? It really doesn't make any sense.
You know what? I don't write that off as a possibility if things got like really, really bad. But I think that it would work against them, and I would hope that as little credit as I generally give politicians for their ability to think, I think that one is fairly obvious. I think that they would really hold off before dropping a nuke on their next door neighbor for fear of fallout, if nothing else. But you know, the people of the United States, the problem is we hold this enormous amount of power, but we're so split on our viewpoints. Some people have taken the time to educate themselves on matters, and they hold very educated opinions about things. And then other people are indoctrinated through the public school system. They're told what to think. And they have a contrarian view. Well, how do you harness the collective power when everybody's got a different opinion on something? You know, that's the problem. The only way to have collective power is to have a collective goal. And it is not to say that any individual is put above another with respect to the priority of their rights. Because my rights are no less and no more important than yours. My rights are no more or less important than anybody anywhere in the world. I just may be willing to defend them a little more vigorously than most. So maybe that makes my rights a little more important. I don't know. I got to think about that. Because how important are your rights if you're not willing to defend them? They may be important. You know, your rights may be as important as mine from my standpoint. But if you're not willing to defend them and I am, whose rights are more important? What are you willing to do to protect your freedom? What are you willing to do to keep liberty at home here in the United States? Because it's got to be standing on line for the bus somewhere. Liberty wants out of this country, I'm telling you. The government has done everything in its power to convince us that we need them. And the more that we supposedly need government, the less wanted liberty feels. Liberty is less government. It's indirectly proportional. The more government regulation you have, the more governmental influence you have in the day-to-day activities of the people of this country, the less freedom you have, the less liberty you have. Everybody thinks that this thing that we call the Constitution and rights and liberties and freedoms, they think these are going to be around forever. And we think that because we haven't fought a damn war for them. We haven't had to do anything for them. Americans in 1776 waged war against the largest military power on the face of the earth. to acquire these freedoms. And since then, they've taken a backseat to BMWs and McMansions. Why? Because we haven't had, there's been no associated cost. There has been no price that has been paid for our freedoms in our generation. The Civil War. So many people are completely uneducated about the Civil War. Folks, the South was right. They were wrong on slavery, but they were right on the big issues of the Civil War. Slavery, by the way, was a secondary issue. They were right about taxes. They were right about the right to secede from the Union. They were right about oppression coming from the central government and being directed at the southern states. They had every right to secede. It would not surprise me for a moment to hear that a state or two in this nation secedes in the next 24 months. Would not surprise me. There's already talk about it. Now, the talk heats up for a few weeks and then cools down for a few weeks. The fact is, not since the Civil War has there been this much talk of secession.
What states are they?
Montana and Texas.
I could have guessed that.
Two states, by the way, which if they actually secede formally, I will move to and defend. Well, I have to pick one, I suppose.
Yeah.
I'm a cold weather guy, so I'd probably go to Montana. But these states have the right. They understood that. The federal government acts as if it's the Genovese family. Once you're in, you can't get out. What, are you kidding me? It was a voluntary decision to join the Union. These states were not taken over with military power and forced into the borders of the United States. These states were asked, would you like to join our union? They voted, they said yes. And now the central government acts as if, what are you talking about? You can't secede, you can't leave. We'll have you killed, we'll kill your family. Isn't that really what it comes down to?
You can't leave, we need you.
Right? It's the kiss of death. Once you're in, you're in. You can't get out. And if you want out, we're going to bomb the hell out of you. We're going to sanction you, embargo you. We'll surround your state and stop food from being delivered. That's what the Civil War was. The Civil War was Lincoln telling the people of the southern states, you'll obey my will. And everybody gives him this great credit. Oh, he held the Union together. He held the Union together at gunpoint. I could make anybody do what I want at gunpoint. That's not a great leader. And that's certainly no friend of liberty. And everybody gives him kudos. Why? He freed the slaves. Folks, slavery would have ended in the South pretty soon after that anyway. The slave trade was a dying trade around the world at that point. The evidence is obvious. Northern states had very few slaves at that point. Why? Because it was already becoming socially unacceptable in the United States to have slaves. And as we know, social acceptability is what it's all about. Why do you think we have so many anti-gun laws? You're listening to Fighting Back on WTBQ. Stay with us. We'll be right back after these commercials.